Because it can't be that only 40 million went to the county assembly.
Assembly, we do 1.05.
Your financial statements reflects 40 million.
I think that is, I don't know.
Well, it's your financial statements. CC? Well, the CC's overall is the one whose signature is on the forwarding page.
Chairman, those are transfers to CRF, Assembly transfers the co-direct, and that year it was 1.1 billion. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, just
the one
just
reflected on the FS are transferred to CRF.
What do you mean? But the note, you've got a note there that breaks down that transfer. And on note 4, transfers to county government entities, county assembly is 0, mortgage is 40 million. In fact, the only transfer reflected in your statement of payments and receipts is a 40 million for mortgage. How was the money that goes to the county assembly transferred?
Chair, I would want the accountant to report. Yeah, I think.
And let them refer to these financial statements. I don't want a story.
Chair,
financial statements.
Chair, the current template requires that we report the monies that we receive from the CRF. So Assembly receives directly from the CRF. So we don't report their money.
Auditor General?
Yeah, Chair, that is the true position. In terms of that templates, you know, when we look at the CRF, and that's why we're also auditing the account assembly in terms of the fund they receive. But in terms of the development, again, we normally measure the total expenditure vis-a-vis the actual the developments. And that's why if you look in terms of the issue number 2, in terms of the fiscal and compliance with the fiscal responsibility, we are saying the total expenditure, that's recurrent, and the development is 8.4. But in terms of the expenditure for the development is 1.5 billion, representing 19%.
Now, Auditor, so if in this statement of receipts and payments, the money that went to the assembly is not included either as a receipt or as a transfer, what therefore ought to have been total receipts in CRF? Because that then becomes the base for determining this percentage. If the assembly received, you said 1.4? No, assembly, the transfer to the assembly. The explanation we are getting is that there is no transfer to the assembly here because it was transferred directly from CRF. Is that the position? So what were the total receipts and therefore transfers in CRF? Because 8.2 billion has been transferred here from CRF. You're saying 1.4 has been transferred from CRF to the assembly. Are we on the same page, Governor? That officer, what's the role of that officer? The one who has answered this question?
Chair, Ivan Skiage, in charge of financial reporting.
Correct. So what then should have been the total revenue for Kisii County Executive for that financial year?
Okay, for purposes of reporting, they have separated the executive and assembly. But if you wanted to report for the entire county, then it will be what we received as executive and what went to assembly.
So what is that figure? What is total revenue for Kisii? And remember, total revenue is defined in the PFM as equitable share, own source revenue, and any additional allocations.
Yes.
So how much was it for Kisii in that financial year?
I may not be able to give the exact figures.
Don't you have your CRF account statement? Because
we didn't come with
it's not a figure in someone's head.
It is not
a figure
here.
In the CRF.
It is not with us, Chair.
Chair, it was 9.3.
It was 9.3.
Yes.
Auditor General, you can confirm that? Remember, this exercise is supposed to look at 3 reports, even though we are only interrogating 2, ROR and executive. But the CRF, being the source of everything, must always be on the table because it forms part of the conversation. Because, Auditor, the reason why I've asked that question, if you take 9.3 as a base, our wage bill is 60%. If you take 8.2 as a base, our wage bill is 68%. Now you need to guide us. Remember, we asked that question at the beginning. What is a base? And Governor, for you to quickly accept that your wage bill is at 68%, your advisors should advise you on how that figure is computed. You have a financial advisor in the form of a CEC on one hand, and the gentleman in glasses is in what role?
County Attorney.
County Attorney. You have here spent a lot of time saying that your wage bill is at 68%. But from my assessment, if you look at your total revenues, then it would go back to 60%. It's still bad, but it is not as alarming as 68%.
You're the one who came up with that 68. You remember, you are the people who started with 68. I told you if it's 68, we may be going to 73. But again, by choosing of your words here...
Governor, no. It is your responsibility to say that the numbers we have are different. Now, if I didn't ask about what is in the CRF, I wouldn't have gotten this answer. 68 is on the basis of what was transferred from CRF to the executive against what was paid as salaries. By your clarification, which then even your advisors don't have, you are saying that your total revenues was 9.3. The wage bill is computed as a proportion of total revenues. So it's not like I put some words. You led us along that path. This is extremely untidy because if you cannot agree whether it's 68, 60, 64, OAG?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As you said, in terms of the revenue base, there's that discussion whether we'll still add on source revenue to the base. Of course, if you add that, the percentage comes down. Again, in terms of even the wage bill, we also do the computation for the wage bill for the county assembly, which again, in terms of, and that's why we also look into the financial statement for the county assembly separately.
No, for county assembly, I have been of the view that that provision should not apply. It shouldn't apply because that should be, because when you report on the county assembly, you usually give reports like 80% was used on salaries. Of course, county assembly does not deliver services or development. But you must advise us on the base. You put 60%, we asked you, you agreed with us it was 68%. It is your responsibility to guide us.
But Chair, I don't know how we can leave out the all-source revenue because in our discussions all through, and I think this is my 7th year on this in this Public Accounts Committee, if we leave it out, then the remedies undertaken in terms of increasing the all-source revenue
null and void.
be here, not there. Otherwise, it should be the total revenues, shareable revenue, plus the on-source revenue. So that if we increase the on-source revenue, then the base increases and therefore the percentage comes down. The only discussion then maybe that would be remaining or is whether we would add grants, conditional grants. Where do they fall? If in a year we get grants, then we also add them as part of total revenues. They
all come to CRF. Anything that goes to CRF is defined as a revenue for the county. So, Governor, I think it would have helped your case if you are familiar with these numbers. You would have corrected us at the onset that it is not 68, it is 60%. And then you would have proceeded with that number in mind. So let's deal with the details
Chair.
when we convene that special meeting.
Chair, the advice again, rightly the way you put it, we could be even less than that 60%, because you see what is happening is that KTRH, which consumes close to we pay actually, if we bring in their revenue and even report it, we could be around 10 billion. Therefore, that pushes that wage bill to below 60. But again, me, I knew very well out of your discussion, you came up because some people were reporting 41, we had 68. I picked it from there. Therefore, that was an oversight. Well, I'm sure that we can be able to correct as we're going forward to get the correct figures. Because I've seen, Chair, it's not even 9.3, it's 9.45. That's the revenue.
So we want to, at our next conversation to have the CRF statement here. Then, Patrick, what the governor is referring to, in their statement of receipts and disbursements under the receipt of revenue, hospital fees and public health service fees is 0. In the morning, CIA reported hospital fees and public health service fees in the ROR. Why are we not consistent? Because CIA collected 501 million on account of almost 300 million from hospital fees. Kisii has collected 502 million without including hospital fees and public health service fees. One of the two reports ought to have been queried. One is wrong. They can't both be right.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is something that we have to look at as OAG then, so that even when you are reporting, then you have a standard way of reporting. We cannot be reporting in one entity, then leaving out the other.
Before FIF, I think counties had leeway to report as on-source revenue. But now, because of FIF across all the counties, we must agree that whether FIF will be part of on-source revenue or not.
That will happen, Chairman.
Chair, you know, we are in the process of learning. Learning is a continuous process. I agree with you that we reported there as 0 on issues of health. But at the moment, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Governor.
Chair, only one facility, that is KTRH, raises 1 billion as we are talking right now, and is not reported. Leaving out the level 4s, which we have not reported again there. Therefore, we could be doing more than
Their
the 500.
revenue is not reported here,
It's not.
but is their expenditure reported here?
Yes. Because, Chair, all...
The expenditure is part of this compensation that we have here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so you see, that's when you retreat and you ask for these answers or you ask these questions to your officers, they should be able to paint for you a better picture. You remember I was not very happy to be discussing 68 with a potential of 73%. You know, that's a statement of impunity. We should have first gone to the numbers and say, wait a minute, we are not even 68, we are not even 60, we are probably 50-something. So your officers must be able to do that analysis for you and tell you, this is CRF, these are the other funds that are excluded from CRF by legislation of the County Assembly. Because I believe that the facility funds are not swept to CRF, are they? Yeah. They are excluded by an act of the County Assembly. So we must put together all these funds, all this revenue, now, but if they are excluded, their expenditure should also be reported in those other funds.
Chairman, so that then you have fair reporting. We cannot say the financial statements are true and fair if we exclude the revenue from those hospital fees and then include the expenditure here, Chairman.
Yeah, that collapses your argument. This thing requires, yeah.
And that is why we needed people who signed off the financial statements. Because if they were here, it would have been more clarity, because you can see CCM is not even aware.
So the end result is that where we have reached, we are not sure what percentage is spent on wages in Kisii County. We cannot say with certainty that this is a percentage. Can we?
No, I'm not sure because the 68 was you are making, Mr. Chairman, with your team.
The 68 is the numbers that are here. It is not.
Again.
No, Governor. Governor, you know when you say it's our making, you make it sound like we came. Can you withdraw that? Because 68 was on the basis of total receipts. Order, Governor.
Chair, can you see the governor is pointing at me?
Governor, Governor,
also pointing a finger at me.
Order.
And apologize.
Governor, I don't want it to appear as if we are making up numbers. The 68 is based on total receipts of 8.2 billion versus total payments of 5.6 billion. That gives you 68%. It took our effort to find out what else is in CRF. It took our effort for you to realize that there is FIF, which is not included in the 8.2. So please do not create that impression that we have come up with a number. If we wanted to push that number, we would not have asked the subsequent questions that are now pushing the percentage down. So to avoid a lengthy back and forth, let us have that conversation, and it is now urgent, because you can't have a situation where a county cannot authoritatively say that this is our percentage that we are spending on employees. So clerks, let's prioritize that. Out of the list of shame of the counties, let Kisii be the first because they have the bigger ratio compared to the other
counties. And the governor to withdraw and apologize for saying the committee manufactured 68%. Yet it is something on record. Can he apologize and withdraw? And also withdraw the finger that he pointed at me?
The problem with the governor is that he's pointing with one hand and smiling with the other. So I'm not sure which body language to take. And I think that is even how he sorted out Didymus. He was smiling and assaulting somebody.
In Kibra.
In Kibra.
Yes. So that is why I don't take his pointing lightly.
So stop confusing us with your body language. You are either smiling or you are pointing at somebody. Now, members, I think we need to bring this conversation to some conclusion. The wage bill has got about 10 related questions in the audit report, and they definitely remain unresolved. And we conclude by saying that the county executive of Kisii has got about 48 issues that they still need to explain to the Auditor General in the substantive audit. But this committee will do a further inquiry on the issue of the wage bill because it is the biggest fiduciary risk facing Kisii County government. With that, we come to a close for today. We have not gone through issues as we would have expected, but I hope that in the next report we'll be able to do greater justice to the issues. But for the record, Senator, we have not cleared the 48 issues. They remain as they are. Our recommendations remain as was resolved by the Senate on the 27th of March. And if in the next audit cycle they are not resolved, then we shall refer to Section 51 of the Public Audit Act. Our legal counsel read out what that section entails and the action that Parliament can take if accounting officers fail to implement the recommendations of the Senate. I think it goes further. I think it's one of those cases where Parliament can declare someone unfit to hold public office. It's one of those very, very rare instances. So, Governor, I hope that you'll whip your team. You'll kick your advisors and tell them to advise you because you hired them to advise you. I think there's some mismatch in information. Where you are at the top, policy, politics, even outside politics, I take notice you are the deputy leader of a political party. So there are some details that you must allow your staff and team to deal with and be the ones to respond because they're the ones who will be held accountable. Do you have any matter in closing, Senator Onyonka? Vice Chair, Senator Sregeri?
Maybe, Chair, it is sad that we could not conclude on these 48 matters, but since you have directed, it remains as they are. I wish when we appear on wage bill, we should have tested 1 or 2 projects, because I know wananchi would want to see brick and mortar so that they can see their money. That is how they know their money. So, Governor, I think now that you have been given a new lease of life, kindly make sure you provide that information so that, you know, this is the only place, Governor, let me say this with a lot of tremendous respect, that you have free airtime to showcase what you have done for Kisii people without anybody interrupting you. Unlike in matangas, in birthday parties, or any other forum, or in political contests, this is where facts and figures speaks for itself. So I hope next when we meet, Governor, you should be able to put a test to a few projects in Kisii. And Governor, I don't know whether we should visit Kisii, because I saw our colleague on the streets when the Finance and Budget Kisii Committee visit. So you need to reassure us that when we visit Kisii, we shall be able to do our job without any interruption. If what we saw our colleague undergoing through, so we really want to visit some of these projects. And we hope when we visit, you will cooperate, so that, Governor, don't you think it is better for us to be on a project, you there with your team, led by Kajuang here, the chair, and all of us there, then we see and wananchi can see, so that we can take accountability to another level. Finally, is that we are pushing for more resources, as you have said. Our prayers was county is to get 465 billion. There is a mediated